blue team 28, the gold team 21. And guys, this is the last time we're going to have to remember who won the game, but the key was that Steve Angeli found newcomer Chris Mitchell for a 62-yard stop-and-go touchdown at Isaiah Dunn's expense. All three quarterbacks played well, but that is going to be the key takeaway. Steve Angeli, 2 times in 3 years, late-game heroics in the blue-gold game.
Yeah, those angelic moments keep coming up in these blue and gold games. A fun game, a solid crowd on hand, and I think plenty of things to be encouraged about for Notre Dame, particularly when you consider some of the high-profile names that did not participate today, yet there were still highlights. There were still a lot of positives on the defensive side of the ball, and I thought maybe most of all we saw continued athleticism and growth from the linebacker core, which I believe you asked about, TP.
Yeah, well, the linebacking core has been excellent since the beginning of the spring, and we knew that it would be, but then you get a KVA thrown in there, and Osbury. Yeah. We've all been high on Osbury. Jalen Sneed has really stepped forward. Every coach we've asked has basically said the same thing about the growth and the maturity and that kind of thing. But bumping back to the quarterbacks, from the beginning of spring, the first practice, we said, you know what? They all look pretty darn good. Today they were 44 of 67 for 516 yards with 4 touchdowns and 1 interception. That was Minchie. It could have been the second one, really. Yeah. It would have been a pick six by Ben Minnick. But by and large, it's just a good group of quarterbacks can throw the football. And I know there were some questions last Saturday when we talked about C.J. Carr and who he was doing it against. Just watch him throw the ball. It doesn't matter who he's doing it against. And he almost got picked himself, but he has a great touch. He's got a great feel for the game. He has a great feel for buying himself some time and space and making throws. It's a good group of quarterbacks. Throw Riley Leonard into that group, but one will be likely eliminated as the portal stays open here for a little while longer.
Kenny Minchie threw a touchdown pass to Micah Gilbert. He also ran for a touchdown. That was one of the things we wanted to see pregame because Minchie escapes so often in that red jersey. Would he be good? He's naturally quick. He's a good runner out there. He has I think 4 of his runs were scrambles, 6 were designed runs, including the touchdown for 40 yards. Steve Angeli also threw a touchdown to Eli Raridan, and that was one of our pregame questions. How much would Eli Raridan play? He played a lot today.
He played a lot today. He looked good today. He took some hits today. He caught the ball well. He moved upfield. Really encouraging to see that much from Eli Raridan today. And to your points on the quarterbacks, we've said it all along. Notre Dame has 4 quarterbacks it could go win NCAA football games with. But C.J. Carr in back-to-back Saturdays inside Notre Dame Stadium has looked really good and has not turned over the football.
Tim, let me jump in there. Getting back to Micah Gilbert, I said before we started recording, Micah Gilbert 2024 is Jaden Greathouse of 2023, the early entry freshman who, Greathouse's numbers, I think he had 11 catches last year. Gilbert's weren't quite that large, and he kind of started out slow. I think he had a drop pass early on, but he came on really strong. I did ask about Eli Raridan because we were thinking that maybe you go easy on him, but it's been a progression, and he got through the day just fine, so he can go into the summer feeling really good about himself. I also asked about Jadarian Price. There was a lot of speculation as to what his situation was, and I know when Marcus Freeman said he had a hamstring injury, and we've talked about a couple other hamstrings, I know the question now is going to immediately turn to Lauren Lando and his reputation, or at least supposed reputation when he was with the Broncos with the hamstring injuries. Football players suffer hamstring injuries. I mean, I don't think I think there's always a handful of hamstring injuries on every team. And Marcus Freeman blamed himself a little bit for the one that Price suffered in practice. It wasn't during the scrimmage last week. It was in practice during the week. And he said, 1 rep too many. So it was just a precautionary thing with him.
You mentioned Jaden Greathouse. He really didn't show up until he had to. When they had to try to seal the game, they were going to Jaden Greathouse. He caught the pass to end the game, and he caught a couple passes there late. And I thought we were wondering who would shine for the receivers because they only had 4 scholarship receivers available for the game. It's not a sexy name anymore. It would have been really cool 4 years ago for our fans. But Deion Colsley had 4 catches for 58 yards and 4 first downs, all in the first half when it was mostly competitive, with Christian Gray guarding him. If Deion Colsley's involved in this mix, it goes deeper than 7, but I would still be surprised. This receiving core could not field 4 people at Duke. And now we're adding 7, 8, and 9 to the receiving core with K.K. Smith and Deion Colsley and Micah Gilbert today. That would be 7, 8, and 9. out of that group.
And we've talked about Colsey appearing in better shape over the course of this spring camp. We've talked about more maturity and toughness. He had surgery on his finger about 2 weeks ago and came back much quicker than I think anyone expected. Got back out within days of still being involved in a red jersey, and then very quickly shedded the red jersey to get back fully involved. And he did. He played well today. You wonder how everything unfolds here moving forward, but he put his best foot forward for Notre Dame and the wide receiver corps today. And as real quickly cleaning up on the hamstring talk, I do think it's worth noting that on Monday of this week I got to go out and hit some golf balls, and by Wednesday it was almost back to freezing cold here in South Bend. So sometimes those quick temperature changes can make the muscles tighten up a little bit.
Tim, two phrases you and I have never said: Deion Colsey had a good spring, or Deion Colsey had a good camp.
No, that's
Deion
right.
Colsey had a very good spring, and as you said, John, a bounce back from the injury.
Not a lot in the running game today. I think the highlight was that short pass to Jeremiah Love where he broke about 9 tackles down the field. He did run for a touchdown. Aeneas Williams ran for a touchdown. He had some tough runs inside. And the defensive line against the half defensive line is better than the half offensive line. That's the way it's going to be. There were 7 defensive line sacks. Nobody else had a sack because there was not much blitzing. Of course, Jason Onye had the 2 highlight sacks. He was going against reserve guard Ty Chan, but we talked to Al Washington. He was the winning coach for the blue team post-game. Asked him a little bit about guys on opposite ends of the collegiate spectrum. R.J. Oben, who they brought in from Duke, Boubacar Traore, both had a sack today, both made some plays. Oben actually made Minchie fumble, I believe. I just believe this is our first chance to look at R.J. Oben in a full practice situation, and he had a good day.
Yeah, I like his game. I liked it at Duke. He's just kind of that. He pinballs around in there. If you block him, he bounces off and goes in the other direction. I've said Tasmanian Devil. I'm not sure all of our listeners know who the Tasmanian Devil is.
The interns do. That's good.
The interns do, so they've watched some old cartoons. But he just is that kind of player, and I really like what he did today. And you know, Al Washington's done a really good job with that defensive line. It's deep. Onye's a guy that we liked last year, but he wasn't quite ready to be a regular contributor. Al Washington talked about his pad level being much better. It showed. And I also want to, I feel like I'm the keeper of the left guard spot here because I say that I'm going to.
One left guard got run over a lot today.
I did not play left guard, no. But I thought Rocco Spindler was very good today. In one series, he clearly defeated Brennan Vernon, Sean Sevillano, and who was the other one, Tim? I'm not going to remember right now, but it was 3 guys within the same.
We'll just say Riley Mills. It sounds better, but I don't.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was, but I thought he looked really, really good today. I know there was a time when Pat Coogan got bum rushed a little bit early on, so I would give the win today to Rocco Spindler at left guard.
And defensively, it's tough because there's kind of like stat compilers in these games. But it was good to see Jalen Snead capitalize on his good spring. He was out there as well. Kahanu Kia had a good day, one of the blue and gold guys. But and I thought these guys are up and coming these for future seasons. A guy like Kahanu Kia will play special teams this year. A guy like Devin Houston will play his first football this year. He gets in there. But it's good to see that depth coming out. Did anybody else catch your eye in the blue gold today?
You know, Christian Gray, he was referenced earlier, but he continues to improve. He continues to be so active. KVA just, again, plays well beyond his year or his months in college. Just a really sharp, savvy football player who's getting more and more comfortable every day. You've seen him relying on his instincts early in camp, and those were really good, his physical ability and instincts. Now I think there's greater understanding for what KVA is showcasing out on the field. You continue to see, I think, the sum of parts. It's one thing we collectively ask Marcus about the growth of himself as a coach and the growth of this Notre Dame roster. He said he thinks it's the best since he's been here. We didn't get to clarify if he's including that 21 season. I'm choosing to interpret it as including the 21 season. I think it's a really nice roster. I think they have a SEC type group of linebackers. I think they've got a bunch of different key parts at the defensive line position. They've upgraded speed in the secondary, and the one thing that Marcus first and foremost pointed out, they've dramatically overhauled the wide receiver room.
Tim, you need to talk about Aeneas Williams a little bit, don't you?
Well, Aeneas, if people don't know, he was my number 1 recruit in this class. I would like to change that to 1B with CJ Carr being 1A now that I've seen them play college football. But we're remiss not to mention this name. Luke Talich had an interception and a fumble recovery, 7 tackles today. He had a good day, but his first true spring game where he had a chance to play.
He had 12 tackles,
Yeah.
and Snead, I think, 8 tackles. That's encouraging. Snead is particularly encouraging because we heard so much about his progress this spring. We saw some of it last week. He flashed more today. That's the consistency that coaches have been asking for.
And I want to full disclosure on the quarterbacks. There was a couple times during the scrimmage today where I said to you, Tim, with Angeli, throw the ball. I mean, there were a couple times where he was throwing changeups, throw the ball. But again, overall, I think all the quarterbacks threw it pretty well.
That's it for instant analysis, but we're going to have Tim Prister's snap judgments, my notebook, John Brice's takeaways tomorrow, and prior to that, an edition of Irish Illustrated Overtime on our YouTube channel and Facebook page.